Marathon Meeples Top 100 Games, 30 to 21. If you want to watch the entire series, make sure you hit the subscribe button.
Okay, number 30, kicking it off, is Snowdonia. Potentially our first ever Euro game. In Snowdonia, you are going up Snowdonia Mountain. You are trying to clear off the path so you can build some track. That's pretty much the game. You have to deal with bad weather. And that's the one cool mechanic of this game, because when you have to deal with bad weather, sometimes you cannot clear any track. You just have to do some different things on your turn. And then, collect cards, try to gain victory points. And other turns, you are like, oh wow, the weather is great. I can take more rock and build more track this turn. So it has a very nice kind of randomized mechanic where you don't really know what you're going to get except of like 1 or 2 seasons ahead, ultimately. So love this thing.
Yeah, it's worker placement, it's resource management. There's just so much in this game, yet unbelievably simple in the rules overhead. So I think the weather, like you said, is pretty much the biggest dynamic
for sure
that changes up.
Yeah, and for a game that's 10 some odd years old, I can't think of anybody that's like really copied that either. They have a big box for it, which comes with like 1 billion expansions. I don't know if you really need it. We have 2 expansions. I've never even played them. So this box here comes with an expansion built in. So there's 2 decks of cards. I think that's enough Snowdonia for us, and we still enjoy it, but I don't need to go down and get every little permutation of it.
Number 29 is Orleans. Now this is a game that we quite enjoyed. We had the expansion, so there was a cooperative expansion to it as well. You're doing some travel, you have worker placement, you're gathering followers, you're pulling random workers, and that's who you get that round. So there's elements of kind of luck, but also some really cool strategy you're trying to do, along with some contract fulfillment. So there's just a lot of different little elements to this game.
Yeah, it's been picked up by Capstone, I think, and TMG had it, and TMG is now out of business. We played it out, I would say, for the most part. We played that game a lot.
Yes.
The base game is great, though. It's a great place to start. There is an expansion that adds a co-op dynamic to it, and that is awesome. We loved playing that. And then before we got out of the system, we did not get the final expansion, which changes up a number of the cards and boards and whatnot. I like it. I felt like I've seen what there is to see there, though. I don't know if I need to play it anymore. Setup can be a bit of a pain as well, because you have to lay down different face-down tiles across a board. You got to put all your guys out. It's a great game, obviously to be this high on the list, it's very good, but I felt like the shelf life of like 30 plays, I was good. You don't
And
agree?
I was more than happy to keep it. We, I think, only beat the co-op once, so I thought that once we had that expansion, there was a lot more play left in the box for me, and I thought the replayability based on the number of times we played it, and now that expansion, it could have stayed longer, which is partially why this game is ranked where it is, but Matthias felt that getting in a new game was going to kind of introduce new things to us, so out it went, and of course in came other things.
Well, to be fair to myself, at least I can try to do that. That was when our collection, we were trying to keep it around like 40 games. It was like, okay, we've played this thing 30 some odd times. Let's get her out. Let's try something else.
That was before the investment in the 5x5 Kalex.
Yes, it was. Number 28, Carcassonne, the original Carcassonne. We have another Carcassonne on the list, the Carcassonne the Castle. The original Carcassonne, I don't know if I have to explain this one too much. It is like the preeminent tile laying game. You can get this anywhere, Target, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, etc. We have expansions 1 and 2, and I think we will stop there. It's Carcassonne. I don't know what more I need to say about it.
No, we love it for what it is, the simplicity of it. We can get anybody to play it, including my parents, which is a major feat. But it does what it does. We don't need to add expansions.
For sure.
Because there are other games that we would rather play than gaining more expansions for Carcassonne.
Well, I just feel like there's a bloat. Once you get to a point, it's like, there's over 10, I think, at this point. It's just like, okay, here's a different little castle mechanic and whatnot. Like, I think there's enough game here that if we play it periodically, and we also play it with our parents quite a bit, that I don't need to add any more of it.
Absolutely.
But I'm happy I have it.
100%. Number 27 is the 100 Tory. This is where it is because I love this game. I love the theme. It is a tile laying game, but it has some interesting mechanics about how you can collect tokens and tiles, which allow you to do things, because it's all about how close you are to the next one of its kind. So you really are thinking about how you're placing down those tiles, and your opponent can also use those routes. So you got to be careful about what you do, when you do it, and you can trade in some of your tokens you get in order to get powers. So those powers add to the game. And then, of course, it is a game about Japan. There's some amazing kind of history in the book, and the artwork is great. So for me, that just kind of raises it up that extra level.
Yeah, I like the path building aspect where, as you were explaining, you don't want to leave somebody else some other move. So it's a very interactive game. They did a great job with the production throughout the entire thing. And like, as I was talking about Carcassonne just a second ago, like, love Carcassonne. Maybe I've played it too many times. That thing's over like 70 plays in our collection. I'd probably reach for 100 Tori right now and play that just because I really like that interactive mechanic, especially when you get the board. You start with a couple tiles and it just expands out. And as it expands out, you're opening up more routes for your opponents. Those last like 5 or 6 turns, you're like, oh gosh, where do I put this? Where do I put that? It slows the game down, but it's worth it because you're really aware of what your opponent's doing at the same time. 26, the oddest shaped game in our collection, most likely, Burgle Bros. This is the original. They've come out with Burgle Bros 2. So in this game, it comes with a bunch of tiles in the box. You're setting up these grids, and you're trying to work your way up floors to steal loot, and then just get out to your helipad, which is on the top, before you get caught. There's a bunch of variable player powers for your different thieves in the game. They come with an A and B side. There's a bunch of different variety in the box. There's an app that allows you, once you've kind of beat the base models, it just randomizes the board. There's a lot of game in here. It's fun every time out. Really enjoy it. Setup's a bit of a pain. The box, putting this back in the box is a bit of a pain. It's definitely worth it, though. This is one of my favorite co-op games.
Yeah, and as Matthias just said, it is a co-op game. So there's really cool elements about how you move around because your board is set up as 3 different levels. So at times you might be working by yourself on a certain level, but your partner thief might be trying to loot a different level and move around.
Yeah, that's a good point, because if somebody, like, you get basically 3 tokens of life, and if you lose them all, if one member of the team gets caught, you're all caught. I guess they just rat you out or something like that. So you're right. You want to make sure that when you're making your moves, you don't want to leave the guard and nab your fellow criminal.
Number 25 is Hawaii. Now, this game got a lot of play by Matthias and I because we were planning a wedding to go to Hawaii, and I like theme, so if I could find a game that tied in our vacation planning to a board game, I was in. But that isn't the reason that it made it this high up on our list. There is a solid game in this box. I know the artwork looks old, and the game is.
Oh, it's
old.
Now, yeah.
But you are growing out your Hawaiian village. You are going to score points based on how big your village is, and it's worker placement. You are trying to move your little worker around to take different actions, but people can either block you, they cost different amounts, so if he gets there first, I may no longer be able to buy that good. So the game just has a lot going on. It is the world's largest nuisance to set up, which is why it doesn't hit the table nearly as often as I think it could. But great theming throughout the game, interesting mechanics, things you can do even if you have no resources. You can do things like fishing. So there's pretty much always something you can do.
Yeah, I love this game. This game is, when it came out, this is the famous game that Tom Vassell had thrown in the trash because he said it was a spreadsheet game. So he's since apologized for it, and bad on you, Tom, for doing that, because this is a great game. I think you have to be into math and trying to optimize and figure things out, but there's a lot going on here, and outside of the setup, I don't really have any complaints for it. It's a good game every time out, and there's a randomized setup, so every game is different. This is the only game by this designer. I think the whole Tom Vassell thing I don't know if it affected his ability to make future games, but he needs to make more. Gregory, make more games. This one is very good. It's been out of print forever, but you can get a copy on the BGG Marketplace. 24, Marsicabio, another Alex Pfister game. We've had a couple on our list now, Great Western Trail and Mombasa. This is another one that kind of deals with imperialism that I think people want to retheme, similar to Mombasa. But in this game, you're essentially going around. Is it safe to say that you're kind of pillaging villages and your countries, and
Yeah.
you're kind of going around. You're an
Collecting.
imperialist. So just look past that and pretend you're in space doing mining or something like that. You're going around the board, you're collecting resources, you're trading things in. It's a rondel system. You can go ahead of your opponent and force their turn. You can fast play, slow play. I'd say one of the only downsides to this is the setup. Even just the player boards take a long time because you have these little wooden cubes. But we don't play this one enough, but I do want to play the campaign again.
Yeah.
Not even again, I just want to start it. We haven't even started it.
And I guess if we're going to go to complaints, the only complaint I have, just like any other game that has variable kind of round length, this one's not a variable round length, but I could have all these amazing actions all planned out and my entire round figured out what I need to do, and your last turn is going to be based on when the other player makes it to the end of the islands for that turn. And since you can travel, I think it's up to 1 to 3 spaces.
Yes.
The other player can, in theory, finish 3 times faster than you.
Yeah, but I like that mechanic. So you don't like it, whereas I like it because it basically you just go around and try to collect every resource
Engine
just
builder,
one
engine
build,
builder.
one move. Where in actuality, the game forces you to make those tougher decisions. Oh, I get something here, but there's something not as good a little further down. But at least I'm moving along the chain. So we'll agree to disagree on
Tortoise?
that one.
Here.
Well, you can't collect every resource, otherwise it's a 18-hour long game.
Tortoise? Here.
Tortoise hair. Okay.
Number 23 is Dominant Species Marine. So this is a GMT game. Typically, they make war games, which are on Matthias's I Love list. This is a game that I personally love. I love the theme of it, so the marine biology aspect of it, but they also created a solid area control, creature management game, and it's really cool because the artwork on the cards, you're moving up a track, you can take so many actions based on your character, and you can only take actions that are lower on the track than your previous action. So the rounds play interesting in the fact that you might be on your next round, but the game doesn't reset until both players finish their round, which I quite enjoy, being a person who often is slower in playing my rounds. But saying that, it also comes with probably my favorite 2-player variant.
Yeah, well, the 2-player variant, I think you could walk over to almost any game. Basically,
Sure.
a 2-player variant is you just play 2 characters. It's a 2 to 4-player game, but each person can play 2 characters each, and then your lowest score, whoever the lowest score on the entire board is, loses. So it's a very simple mechanic, but it makes you pay attention to what you're doing. You can't just take one character and just run up to the top and forget about your other one. I'm interested that you like it as much as you do, because to me it's still very war game like. They have a Dominant Species original game. This is by the late Chad Jensen, and I guess he originally started the design. Everybody kind of just pumped it up that last little bit to bring this thing out. But this one is maybe a little simpler, and the reason we got this over the original is this is better at lower player counts and using that 2-player variant.
And it's about marine wildlife. So, when you can't go on a vacation, or it's the middle of winter in Canada, why not go on a vacation?
Well, it's marine wildlife, but it's
Right.
also back, dinosaurs and it's you learn quite a bit from playing this. Like dinosaurs don't exist anymore. Or do they? I don't even know. What finger was that? I get the video flagged. Number 32, Glass Road, another Uwe Rosenberg game on our list. In Glass Road, this is a card-based game for the most part. You have a set board at the start with forests. You're trying to basically just put down buildings onto these forests. You have to clear off your forest, get resources on this cool rondel system, buy these buildings to put down for various points. But when you're playing your cards in this game, you're playing cards and your opponent is playing cards, and you're trying to figure out what card they're going to play, because if, let's say Lisa plays a guy who tears down forests, if I have that same card in my hand, I get to play it for free. And every card has 2 actions on it. If, let's say, back to that example, if she plays her card and I don't have it, she gets both actions. But if I have it and she plays it, then we both get 1 action each. So you're trying to like cat and mouse figure out, okay, what do they think I'm doing? What do I want to do? And vice versa on their turn, where you're trying to keep a couple cards in your hand to peg them off. So that is a very interesting game. And you can get this at the Corning Glass Museum.
Yes, we picked up this game. It will never leave our collection, or at least over my dead body, because it is the game that we got when I ran my first marathon at the Corning Wine Glass Marathon. So it is a lifer game, which I'm over the moon. It is also a phenomenal game.
So if I traded this out, you would be glassy-eyed. Hit the road?
He
Oh gosh.
wouldn't want to know what would happen. All right, coming in at 21 is Point Salad. This is another one of those great kind of party games, and you can teach anybody. So anybody can pick up this game because you literally draft 2 cards or 1 point or 1 scoring card each round, and you're trying to collect sets to accomplish certain contracts that you picked up for point cards. So it's literally a deck of cards. Every card has 2 purposes. It's either a point scoring card, or on the flip side, it is a vegetable, and you are trying to literally have a point salad based on the variety of ways you can score points. So it's colorful, bright, easy to teach, and my parents will play it.
Yeah, I like a game that has a pun in the title. It's very colorful, and it's, I think, one of our best travel games, or at least our most used travel game, because you can just take, X amount of cards with you, and then you've got a number of games throughout your trip. So, love that aspect.
Yeah, and the variability comes in the fact that you can add 2 players. You're not going to use all the cards each time, so you don't know what's in the deck. But also, depending on what gets flipped over into a vegetable on the table, or what's left in the points, you're going to get different cards too. So the replayability out of it is phenomenal.
Yeah, let us play it again.
Ha, 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 ha. Don't make me cry tears from an onion.
Oh boy, okay. That wraps this video up. We will be doing 20 to 11 in a couple days, so subscribe to get a notification on that video.